Welcome everyone to the first episode of Biro Sports Talk. To get started, I wanted to do an introduction. I'm formerly known as Super Mike from Straight Football Talk. I am now just Biro on the Biro Sports Talk. I've always had interest in broadcasts. I was part of Corpus Incognito in high school, 2008. I was a part of WTLW, WLSN for 2 years. I taught broadcasting for 2 years. I've been part of mass media in high school for 2 years also, which also was part of newspaper editing. Articles will not be anytime soon. I'm just going to let that be known now. Some other facts. I'm a good old small town USA boy. I was originally making this a basketball podcast, but now it's going to be a generalized sports with a heavy emphasis on basketball. And the reason for that is exactly what I said before. I wanted it to be a basketball podcast, so thus it's mostly going to stay basketball. However, I will talk about everything else, including Floyd Mayweather, Conor McGregor, NFL, MLB. It might be drowned by basketball. A few other notes for the intro. Favorite teams: Chicago Bears for football, the Cleveland Indians for baseball. Basketball, I don't really have a favorite team. I follow Oklahoma City Thunder just because my sister used to live out in Oklahoma. I also follow the Columbus Blue Jackets for hockey, the Minnesota Wild for hockey. The Wild's always been a team I liked, and the Blue Jackets because I lived there for 2 years. Also try to keep track of the Columbus Crew in soccer because I lived there. For anything else, I watch it because I enjoy sports in general. I plan to do just some odd sports here and there also. So like golf will be brought up. I know not a lot of listeners might care, but I plan to bring it up. I don't know about NASCAR. If I'll bring it up, I might. I know next year during May and June there will be a lot of horse racing talk because my wife and I are huge horse racing fans. I know my cousin married a horse racing fan also who loves the Kentucky Derby. So moving on with the introduction, again, the name's going to be Biro, just straight what I grew up being called. Once again, emphasis of this will be basketball. Articles may come, but the thing I also wanted to tell everyone, pre-recorded podcast. So I'm not doing the Facebook Live, that's not my thing. I like perfection, and like most people, I'm not perfect. So doing a live feed by myself is not happening. It allows me to bring graphics, it allows me to actually use my degree with my graphics and edit everything and just bring you the best experience possible. The podcast will also be a podcast, so I will be implementing it to SoundCloud, and I will also implement it to iTunes, hopefully. I will also bring it to a vlogcast on YouTube so that we at least hit everything. I also have a Twitter. If you @Biro Sports Talk, I will respond and just talk sports. I will also be if you see me looking down, I'm writing notes as I go. It helps me become better. It helps me bring you the best experience possible. So without further ado, let's get into a few quick hitter notes. So the first note I wanted to bring up was Nick Fairley out for the Saints in 2017 due to an enlarged heart condition, which Everyone knew as he was coming into the league, he's been a great defensive tackle for the Saints. However, in a large part is a huge problem with 3 specialists waiting for the third's opinion. One definitely telling him he should just end his career. It's not looking bright for 2017 for the Saints. The defensive tackle position we thought was solidified, but now with this question mark, they need to potentially pursue someone else just to keep the depth there. Maybe even 2 or 3 guys just to rotate in and out. The next quick news, Michael Floyd, oh boy. So after violating his probation, he got a 1-day in jail sentence. The reason for the sentence and why he violated probation was he drank tea that had alcoholic contents in it, so .00 something. I can't even remember what the tea's called, but the point of it is he drank a lot of that, got like a .005 or a .05, something like that, on his hourly testing, and then violated his probation. I'm going to skip a topic because it's not going to be quick news, so I'm going to move into the next section. But next quick news topic, Jordan Spieth wins the Travelers competition this weekend, and that's his 10th victory on the PGA Tour, which only Tiger Woods, of course, everyone knows Tiger, had the previous record of 10, being younger. However, Jordan Spieth, being under 24 and having some majors under his belt, he's got a lot of potential. So one of the biggest things for Jordan Spieth is that Tiger Woods is probably not coming back anytime soon. I hate to say that because I enjoyed Tiger Woods for years and years and years. The saddest thing for me, though, is that the man just couldn't get it together and continue competing. So I'm looking up some stats because you know me, I like my stats even when I was on straight football. I'm looking, Tiger Woods has 14, Jack Nicklaus has 18. Sorry, don't want to confuse the actor with the golfer, so Jack Nicklaus has 18. Jordan Spieth, let me look up how many he has. I know he has a few. But again, Tiger Woods is 4 away from tying the all-time lead in majors. It's just fascinating to think that he was so close and is struggling with his back injuries and a DUI on prescription pain medicine. Let's look. He has 10 PGA Tour wins. He's won 2 majors, Jordan Spieth, which he won the Masters in 2015 and the U.S. Open in 2015. I know he had a terrible Masters, I believe, last year, where he just fell apart at the end. But great kid. I look forward to him succeeding in the years to come, becoming the new Tiger, essentially. And I also think Rory McIlroy is not going to be as competitive. So, moving on. The next thing that just came in today was Trumaine Johnson of the Rams is not planning to sign his tender. So what that means is he signed the franchise tag, so he's going to play this year for a certain amount of money. I've seen July 17th for his deadline, and he's not going to make that deadline. So that means there's no long-term contract with the Rams for him. In other football news, Brady was voted number 1 by his peers to be the best player in football. Shocking, I know. So let's move out of the quick news and move on to the big hitters that I'm going to talk about today. So first, let's talk about what would have been a quick news topic, but isn't. It's going to be about the age limit in college basketball and the NBA draft. So currently, as everyone knows, when you graduate high school, you either play a year abroad, you play a year in the NBA D-League, or, if I'm not mistaken, the G League, but I'm going to look that up real quick. It is the G League, so the NBA Gatorade League, as it's called. Or you could play a year of college. I'm pretty sure I said abroad the first time, so a year of college. Which, it's not common to see a kid play a year abroad or even a year in the NBA D-League. You still see kids say, hey, I'm going to college here and I'm going to play. It's typical. What's been talked about is the fact that some coaches in the college level, some high-profile coaches, like the baseball rule. So if you don't know what the baseball rule is if you want to play in the MLB, you can either apply it as a high school senior, which just this year, a high school senior shortstop in California was drafted number 1 overall, so has its benefits. Dwight Howard and LeBron James were both high school players jumping straight to the NBA. Even Kobe Bryant, who's now retired, was one of those players. The coach that was in the article for ESPN was Coach John Calipari of Kentucky, and it also briefly mentioned Coach Krzyzewski also agreeing with this rule. So if you don't apply for high school and you go to college, you end up having to wait till you're a junior. So I would say very similar to football, because you have to be a sophomore redshirt to even apply. However, I think some sophomores can just strictly, as sophomores, also apply. Again, it's more commonly seen juniors or sophomore redshirts in football. For baseball, it's juniors, I'm sure. But the point is, what they're trying to eliminate is these one and dones. Duke, Kentucky's probably the worst example of it. And I say worse because every year they have a new starting 5 because they're freshmen. They don't have sophomores, they don't have juniors, and they don't have seniors. They do, but they don't. They're not the stars of the team, as you would say. So for Duke, I know this has been a common thing also. However, most of our guys tend to stay as a sophomore or a junior still. And I say our guys because I forgot in the introductions, I guess, my favorite college teams, Ohio State, Duke, and Ohio. But like I said, Duke tends to keep the guys a little longer. Ohio State is in a world of transition right now, but keeping on track. So with Calipari and Coach K both supporting this baseball rule, where a kid has to stay at least 3 years with your program, which only betters the college basketball game. It will bring better quality, better competition. However, just like football, it will have its top tier and it will have its bottom tier. The difference between college basketball and college football is that basketball allows the underdog to have a chance. Excuse me. The biggest issue I have with this rule is I don't see why it has to wait till the junior season. I would rather it be you get your college degree as a senior. That's just my opinion. I value an education, but Commissioner Adam Silver of the NBA has come out also and stated the NBA itself would love to see the age moved up to the age of 20 instead of 19. It's not much of a change. It would be definitely a sophomore age. And then the NBA union itself wants it to be 18. Again, it's a very iffy either way type deal. The age, I think this baseball rule is perfect. Again, you've seen LeBron James come straight out of high school and perform fine. You've seen Dwight Howard come out of high school and perform fine. Sean Livingston, yeah, he had a terrible start to his career, but has rejuvenated his career with the Warriors as a bench player. Yes, there's other players like Sebastian Telfair who did not perform very well in the league. That just makes the rule seem unimportant or I guess just show the bad side of the rule, where someone thinks they can come out and perform and then they don't. The player, personally, I enjoyed a lot seeing come out was Thon Maker last year, and in the next topic I'm going to talk about, did pretty well for himself. The hardest thing for me about this rule, in closing, is age. There's a young 17 for high school seniors. There's a young, some kids can even graduate as juniors to move up in the, say, class rankings. Some players do that. Some players drop. It's hard to consider what's what for these players. So again, in closing, I think the baseball rule is perfect. I would like to see instead of junior, be senior, so you can see a guy 4 years in college. It is getting a little old seeing one and dones. It's not necessarily that it's ruining the game of college basketball. It's just that you see these teams and you want them to stay longer to succeed. Not necessarily just, okay, I am just playing here for a year and now I'm going to get my money. See ya. So I know that will be talked about in the NBA, but let's move on to last night's NBA awards. So the NBA awards were last night. The obvious first one to talk about, MVP. And I know there was a heavy concern about this one because of James Harden and his talent just exceeding expectations for the Rockets. And the fact that I'm reading that he's a point guard still baffles me, but I know it was necessary for the Rockets to play him at point guard and run that run and gun offense. But my favorite thing was the outcome of the MVP voting. Mr. 42 triple-doubles, Russell Westbrook, did what he needed to do to become MVP. And Michael Jordan reached out to him, said, I won my first MVP and then won a ring. Taylor Swift also awkwardly reached out to him and congratulated him. It's just awesome to see this kid. I was always more of a Kevin Durant fan for OKC, but when I play online for NBA 2K, the one person I could always rely on is Russell Westbrook getting to the basket and then eventually knocking down the threes. That's uncanny. But I think it was well deserved. 42 averaging a triple-double, basically leading that Thunder team to the playoffs by himself was what needed to happen this year for them to be in playoffs. It also is just for his legacy needed to happen. I think this free agency this year, the Thunder could pursue Blake Griffin. Would that help them? It's not really what they need. What they need is a hate to say it, Kevin Durant, a shooter. I mean, JJ Redick's available. He can't play small forward, but you could put Andre Roberson there. But that takes away Victor Oladipo. There's a lot of talk about Paul George leaving the Pacers. I know Austin Thomas mentioned over and over again, asking the site, what are my thoughts about the Cavs pursuing Paul George? One, do I think the Cavs need Paul George? No. If people who know me knows, I do not like LeBron James. I don't mind the player. I would even say I don't mind the person. I just don't like LeBron. Something about LeBron clicks and I just don't like it. I do not jump on the LeBron train, but that's not what I'm talking about. Right now I'm talking about the awards. So moving on. After the MVP, I know the MVP award was the last one mentioned of the night. I'm just going in order as I see them on the screen right now. And the next one they have is Defensive Player of the Year, which for the second straight year is Draymond Green. Undersized as a power forward, he can stretch, he plays great tenacious defense. However, well, I take that back. He did not win it back-to-back years. It was Kawhi Leonard who won it back-to-back years, and he came in second. Leonard's a phenomenal defensive player. The fact that his offensive game has evolved him into a superstar is perfect for the Spurs in years to come. And for the Spurs, that's what they do best, is just get better and better and better. But for Green, for him to win the award, it was necessary. He's always been, in some sense, a triple-double machine. He can easily get you 10, 10, and 10. But that's what he would do, is get you 10, 10, and 10. But defensively, he's always been able to get the rebounds. He's not much of a shot blocker in the traditional sense, but steals is where he excels, being the shorter defender. The third place finisher after Kawhi and Draymond was Rudy Gobert, who's been coming on the scene for the Jazz. So Rookie of the Year. Some of you may know who this is, some of you may not. Malcolm Brogdon from the Milwaukee Bucks. In college, he was a Virginia Cavalier, but he beat out Dario Saric and Joel Embiid. Wow for this kid. He was not a first-round pick at all last year. It's the first time since 1966 that a first-round pick did not win the award. But, man, this kid excelled all expectations of himself. And it did help that Chris Middleton went down with injury early in the year. But to come on strong and be helpful for a Bucks team that is going to be scary in the coming years, this kid will be a great contributing part. Like I said, Dario Saric and Joel Embiid were the second and third place finishers for the award. The sixth man of the year was Eric Gordon. He was coming off the bench for the Houston Rockets, shooting guard. Number 2 was Andre Iguodala, who I wouldn't say favoritism, but I mean a guy who's won the NBA Finals MVP as a sixth man, basically didn't win it by 30-some votes. Eric Gordon was a strong contributing factor for the Rockets, though. Not to knock his season. Lou Williams, who they traded for, was also up for the six-man award, but this was a race between Eric Gordon and Andre Iguodala by far. And the fact that Eric Gordon won is fine. I'm okay with both men winning, but there can only be one. And Eric Gordon won. Again, it's just his contributing factor offensively is what. Let me look up some stats just to make sure I'm bringing you the right thing. His contributing stats of 16 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists. He had a player efficiency rating of 13.2. And then Onwe Iguodala, just once again, make sure I'm bringing you everything you need to know. His off the bench stats, okay, 7 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. Now, it's easy to see now. With 16 points off the bench, he won. The offensive production outweighs the generalized production of Andre Iguodala. And it showed, even though the votes were very, very close. Moving on, most improved player. This guy. Everyone's on the train for this guy. Giannis Antetokounmpo. Oh man, the Greek Freak. Let's just call him that. It's easier for me. It's easier for you. You know he plays for the Bucks. He's a freak of nature, small forward, can play point guard. Ran away with the Most Improved Player award. Led the Bucks to the playoffs this year. Second place was Nikola Jokic for the Nuggets, and Rudy Gobert was third for the Jazz. However, the Greek Freak just destroyed his competition this year. He's just going to get better and better and better, and the Bucks are just going to get better and better and better, and LeBron knows it. There's nothing I can say that will change anyone's mind about the Greek Freak. He's just, once again, a freak of nature. Coach of the Year, Mike D'Antoni. Not surprised, the Rockets did phenomenal under him this year, and the move to put James Harden at point guard revolutionized James Harden this year. Spoelstra was second, well-deserving second. He turned a losing record Heat team into almost playoffs at the end of the day. They were ninth. They just missed the playoffs. Again, the kids hard fought. It didn't help that Dion Waiters went down with injury, but phenomenal job, Eric Spoelstra. Again, Greg Popovich is always mentioned. He was third, but back to the winner, Mike D'Antoni. Well-deserved, running, gunning guy. If he can get the defense where he can get the offense, it'll change his life forever as a coach, I think. The hardest thing for them is, once again, the Warriors team that won this year. How do you stop the Warriors when you can't? When you take away 2 shooters, there's still at least 2 more shooters. And there's potentially 3 more shooters. I mean, they're beatable, but it's hard. The All-NBA team. Now this will be fun. First team, you have LeBron James, Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Kawhi Leonard, and Anthony Davis, all well-deserving. The fact that no Golden State players on it is also understandable to me. The fact that these guys were by far the best players on their teams, again, understandable. So, moving on. Second team, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Isaiah Thomas of the Celtics, Rudy Gobert of the Jazz, and the Greek Freak of the Bucks. Wow, this is a great coming of team. Gobert's young, Thomas is young, the Greek Freak's super young. Steph Curry's pushing, he's getting up there in age, but he's still in the prime. Kevin Durant's in the prime. The fact that Durant's not first team is only because regular season. Yes, he was spectacular in the NBA Finals, and for the foreseeable future, I think that will continue to happen with him and the Warriors. The third All-NBA team, DeAndre Jordan, DeMar DeRozan, John Wall, Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green. To see DeAndre Jordan from the Clippers is a little shocking to me. Do I think he's the third best center? Potentially. I think DeMarcus Cousins is a better center, but being traded to the Pelicans might have hurt that. Just looking at it in my head, if you're going to put a designated center, he's probably even better than Rudy Gobert, but it's understandable why he's third team. DeMar DeRozan of the Raptors pretty much had to take over that team. Lowry, I believe, was injured for a while. And again, understandable. John Wall of the Wizards, great point guard. Not much more needs to be said. Jimmy Butler, formerly of the Chicago Bulls. And I say that because they have him listed for the Bulls. If you were paying attention to the NBA draft, which I'm going to talk about next, he was traded to the Timberwolves for Zach LaVine, Chris Dunn, and a draft pick. We'll see what comes of it. Draymond Green being also an All-NBA third team. For the Defensive Player of the Year to be there, that's understandable. Again, it's understandable. Now, some of you might be like, well, Kawhi Leonard is first team and Rudy Gobert's second team, and they were on the Defensive Players of the Year race. Well, Leonard scores more. Rudy Gobert, once again, scores more. So, Draymond just being on such a loaded team, as some would say, it happens. All defensive teams, though. Here we go. You have Draymond Green, Rudy Gobert, Kawhi Leonard, Chris Paul, Patrick Beverley. Very, very, very solid team right there for the first team. The second team, Danny Green, Tony Allen, Greek Freak, Andre Roberson, and Anthony Davis. Again, when I think defense, I think of Tony Allen. Danny Green's he's okay. I don't know if he's second team defensively per se. I might go more Klay Thompson than Danny Green, but the fact Danny Green was the first one on the second team just speaks bounds for him. Tony Allen's been, it seems like forever, on the defensive team and been with the Grizzlies forever. The Greek Freak, once again, just was phenomenal this year all around. Andre Roberson, defensive stopper for the Thunder. If he could develop a three-point shot, be even more dangerous. Anthony Davis, all-around player again. Now the rookie teams. This will be interesting. Malcolm Brogdon, your Rookie of the Year. Dario Saric, also in the running for Rookie of the Year, along with Joel Embiid, who probably would have won it if he didn't get hurt. The story of his life. So right there, the three guys, top three guys. Buddy Hield, Willie Hernangomez of the Knicks. There's your top five. The only one I'm a little bit questionable about was Willie. I didn't get to watch a lot of the Knicks, so obviously I wouldn't know. Buddy Hield was great, I thought, for the Pelicans, and was even better for the Kings because for some reason the Kings really wanted him. That's why they traded with the Pelicans for Cousins. Let's move on to the second team, shall we? You have Jamal Murray of the Nuggets, Jaylen Brown of the Celtics, who was great off the bench, Marquise Chris of the Suns, Brandon Ingram of the Lakers, and my favorite on the all-rookie second team, Yogi Ferrell. Why is Yogi Ferrell my favorite? Guy playing D-League, practice squad, you name it, he worked his butt off after not being drafted and comes in for an injury-plagued Dallas Mavericks at guard and scored 20-some points and got a 2-year deal. What can you say? That's what they needed, is another good guard. There were some more awards, but those awards were more top plays, top this, and I'd rather not go into them. But tell me what you think. Again, Twitter, I will read the comments after this is posted. Again, some of you might be disappointed. It's not a live video and it's pre-recorded. However, it's better for me. It's better for me to get things accomplished that way for this podcast. The NBA draft. Wow. Let's go ahead and dive on in. As everyone knows, the most talked about person was the number 1 overall pick by the Eastern Conference, Philadelphia 76ers, trading for the number 1 pick to get Markelle Fultz. They also got Anzez Pasechnick, Jonah Bolden, and Matthias Lesort. Now, Pasechnick, oh man, that name is not going to be fun. However, he's a foreign player. I can't remember if Bolden is or Lesort is. However, with foreign players, there's a lot of play with. You can have them keep playing in Europe, or you just basically have their rights overall. However, Markelle Fultz, I'm still baffled that he's number 1 overall. Not because the stats were great. 23 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists per game, almost pushing 6 for rebounds and 6 for assists. However, you look at Washington, who he played for. They are 9-22. The guy couldn't pick up the team around him and make them better. And I do say that still with all due respect to him. But 9-22 and you're the number 1 pick overall, back to back. Like LSU did terrible last year also with Ben Simmons. You have Ben Simmons and now Markelle Fultz, who couldn't make the team around them better. But you do have Joel Embiid and Dario Saric, who both balled out this year and look to continue to ball out. It's fascinating to think about why this kid was so highly touted. I mean, he's a scorer. He's a baller. They say he's the surest bet in one of the deepest drafts in recent memory, but I think he still needs to prove that he can help this 76ers team evolve into that next level, which is a playoff team. I think it will be Embiid, Simmons, and Saric who make him the playoff team, while Fultz learns a little better. Again, he was underrated. This is CBS Sports, so you know. They say he's underrated as a passer, which is understandable. Washington being 9-22, I'm guessing they didn't really fill other players around him that can catch the ball and score or even get open for him potentially. I didn't really watch Washington. I'm an East Coast guy, so being a West Coast guy, I didn't get to watch him a lot. And just not see him in any tournaments because this team was 9-22. They're not going to be invited anywhere. It's even harder for me to watch him. I couldn't easily pull him up on YouTube, but of course I didn't pull him up before the show. So he can score from anywhere. He's from the rim, mid-range, 3-point. He can create off the dribble. Again, if I had to guess who was the best person in this draft to go number 1, I would still say Markelle Fultz. But you could very easily also say Lonzo Ball, Jason Tatum. I would even throw De'Aaron Fox for a while. But he seemed to drop in this draft. Now, moving on from me bashing Fultz for no reason, I'll go ahead and do the first 2 picks in order, and then I'm just going to go down the list from West Conference to East Conference. Number 2 pick overall, as everyone knows, was Lonzo Ball. The Lakers also got Kyle Kuzma, Josh Hart, which, wow, that was awesome. Thomas Bryant, who, quite frankly, doesn't ring a bell, but I am sure if I pulled him up, I would know exactly where he came from. He played in college for, looks like the, Indiana Hoosiers, which is probably why, once again, I didn't see much of him. I watch a lot of ACC, I don't watch a lot of Big Ten anymore. Hopefully that will change this year as we move back to Northwest Ohio and hopefully I can watch some more basketball in general. So this being Magic Johnson's first draft, from just looking at it from a standpoint of who he got, I think it's the greatest thing he could have done. He got rid of D'Angelo Russell, who caused issues, and as Magic said, wasn't a leader for the team. Nick Young hasn't signed, but seeing that Russell's gone, he might sign back. But let's start with Ball. Aside from his father being an issue, his stats were 14.5 points, 6 rebounds, 7.5 assists. Let that sink in for a second. 7.5 assists. He's a team player, everybody. Lonzo Ball will find you, and if you're open, he will find you. If you are fighting to get open, he will get you open with his pass. It's phenomenal. I have seen him play out of the West Coast guys because, once again, all season long they were talking about this kid, and I got to see a lot of his highlights as UCLA transformed into a title contender this year. All I can say is, if Paul George, who's the biggest mystery this summer so far, gets traded to the Lakers and Ball stays, oh boy, talk about elevating your game. Now, the other draft picks, Kyle Kuzma, he's 6'9", he's a versatile scorer who can step out and knock down a 3. That's also just awesome for them. Because Kyle Kuzma, who, let it load, he's just phenomenal. He was, let me actually look up before I just start talking too much about a kid without much information. Alright, he played for Utah. He was the star for Utah. I do remember this. He's listed as a power forward, but with the ability to knock down a 3, he could play small forward. So Nick Young doesn't have to come back. And at 6'9", he can play the taller small forwards. Even if Paul George comes there, you just bump him down to power forward on second team. Or even the backup small forward, so Luol Deng doesn't have to be around much longer. It's awesome. And of course, Josh Hart, great Villanova player. Thomas Bryant, as I said, was a Hoosiers player. Both very solid pieces. As CBS even says, overall the future is bright in Los Angeles. They say as long as George doesn't change his mind, but even if George does, these young talents are going to excel. Especially, I can't stress it enough, Lonzo Ball being able to find the open man. If he can only cut LeVar off, just keep him quiet. But LeVar, in all due respect, is doing what he needs to do to build his brand, his big baller brand, and I respect that. His son is the face of the brand. The shoes look amazing. I'm not much. Well, I would say I'm not much of a shoe guy because I don't buy a lot of expensive shoes. My brother's a little more of the expensive shoe guy, but I can appreciate a nice shoe when I see one, and those shoes look nice. The price tag, though, is high, but you can't afford it. You're not a big baller, according to him. So let's move on. Like I said, I'm not going to go 1, 2, 3. I'm going to go ahead and start with who's at the top of this list so I can get through this a little quicker. And the top is the Western Conference, so we're going to go through the teams I didn't go through with the first 2 picks and then move on. So the first team they have is the Dallas Mavericks. Number 9 pick was Dennis Smith Jr. out of North Carolina State. This kid was highly talked about. Beat Duke at Duke this year because of this guy. They call him a point guard or a power guard at a 6'3" frame. He's a scorer, yeah. There's a lot of these good point guards this year. They're calling him a dark horse, though, for Rookie of the Year, but with Lonzo Ball and so many other great talents going to the right place, I think it's just harder to agree that he could even run for it. Especially with Yogi Ferrell just exploding on the scene for the Mavericks. It's shocked me that they got this point guard. But the scoring, I guess, is what they needed. The next team on this list, Denver Nuggets. Tyler Lydon, who they got from the Jazz at pick 24. Vlatko Konkar at 49, and Monte Morris at 51. Lydon is a 6'10" sharpshooter who is a true stretch four. Lydon is just not a... This team has a lot of front court. And for those who don't know what a front court is, that's your power forward, your centers. And this team has Danilo, well, they include the small forwards, which is Danilo, Gallinari, Kenneth Faried, Wilson Chandler, Darrell Arthur, and Juancho Hernan Gomez, all on the books for next season for the Nuggets. It's kind of interesting to see that they went with Lydon in general. But they also got another power forward, Trey Lyles, from the Jazz trade. Are they just trying to get forwards is the thing. And Konkar, so as I tried to mention or hint at earlier with the 76ers pick, you can draft overseas players. Konkar is one of those players that will be stashed overseas, and if they ever need him, they will have the rights for him. And Monte Morris has an outside shot of making the team, they said. Morris, if I'm not mistaken, let me double check real quick because I like to double check everything I do. He did play exactly who I thought he was. He's the point guard for the Iowa State Cyclones last year, who didn't quite have the year they had in previous years, but they also didn't have the talent. But Monte Morris was a great point guard for them. I think he will be a great backup to Emmanuel Mudiay. And I think he will just help. The Nuggets are always a surprising playoff team, and I look at them just kind of staying stagnant or finally taking that step down to not playoffs. The next team they have, Golden State Warriors. Wow, is all I can really say about this pick. They bought a pick basically from the Bulls. They exchanged $3.5 million and picked up an elite rebounder. And this kid was great for Oregon. Jordan Bell. he will be a great fit, I believe. You see James McAdoo, Kevin Looney, Damian Jones already with the Warriors system, but Jordan Bell, I like this player so much from watching him. I'm just disappointed at how everything ended for him. So what I'm saying, if I'm not mistaken, yes, Jordan Bell, he's the one that just didn't box out in the semifinals against North Carolina. If he would have boxed out, we could have saw Gonzaga versus Oregon. And boy, would that have been amazing. But all he had to do, like I said, was box out. So the first thing I can say is just be in it mentally. I'm sure everyone at the Warriors will keep him mentally involved. But great pickup, I still say. Second round pick, great pickup. Now the Houston Rockets are next. Isaiah Hartenstein, German player who was supposed to be a first round pick. They were supposed to be a big player. The Rockets themselves wanted to be big players in the free agency. Hartenstein is a raw big man who many feel could have been a lottery pick had he waited until next year. And what does Houston do best? Houston stashes players overseas. One of my favorite players that ended up going to Ohio State after Upper Sandusky was John Diebler, and he's still playing overseas, with the rights to him being with the Houston Rockets. How long do they have the rights? I don't know. I tried to look. I know, John, you're a friend on Facebook. Let me know. I believe I see you're in Turkey, I think, currently. You might. I'm just going to double check one more time, see where you're at currently. You are at, Turkey. In Turkey, playing for, I'm not even going to attempt it, but he's in one of the Turkey League teams. I know he won a championship over there overseas already, and I just hope he continues to excel. There's a lot of players I know play overseas that I hope excel. Moving on, the Los Angeles Clippers. Juwan Evans, who's the point guard from Oklahoma State, and Sindarius Thornwell from South Carolina, who, as everyone knows, beat Duke and made it to the Final Four. Yeah. The Clippers traded into the second round twice to get Evans and Thornwell. They're both prolific college scorers who could help this bench, which they say the bench needs help. If I had control of the team, they would have been helpful, but obviously I can't play as the players in real life. In my NBA 2K league on Xbox One, I excel very well with my bench, with Austin Rivers and Jamal Crawford and all those guys, and some, I guess, Knicks players that my friend Diego Palacios let go. But moving on back to what we're talking about, these two guys are great scorers. The fact that they got a point guard and a shooting guard again is shocking to me, only because Austin Rivers, Jamal Crawford, that's their positions. They're a shooting guard and point guard. Unless they're going to let those guys walk, or, as speculation has it, J.J. Redick leaves, Chris Paul leaves, then they have new backups. I think Chris Paul stays. If I have to talk free agency for a quick second, I think I would love to see JJ Redick stay, but JJ might want a ring chase at this point of his career. Another guy who I truly respect. I've always had a thing for shooters. I respect their game a lot better than I do just straight up slashers or dunkers. It might be just how I view the playing style of myself and other coaching, I guess, would be the way of looking at it. But for the Clippers, I think it's great they got 2 scorers. It's just really weird to see these 2 guys, positions that are already crowded, but will they be crowded after free agency? We'll have to see. Next up, skipping the Lakers because we already talked about them, Memphis Grizzlies. They got Ivan Rabb and they got Dylan Brooks, another Oregon star. They're both known commodities, which is funny. I'm not quite familiar with Ivan Rabb, who played for California. See, once again, someone from the West Coast I'm not quite familiar with. I'm going to quickly also look at how they did in the Pac-12 this year. Just, again, I was able to watch some of the Pac-12s, but it mostly involved UCLA, not Cal. Cal did 21-13. They had a decent year. Where Oregon, where Dylan Brooks is from, were the team tied with Arizona. They lost, of course, to UNC in the semifinals. So, like this says, the Grizzlies didn't do anything wrong. They're both known commodities in college, and they'll both be decent role players in the NBA. However, they wanted to see the Grizzlies get Semi Ojeleye, Dwayne Bacon, guys who had higher ceilings than these 2 guys. The only thing I can say is I can't complain with how the Memphis Grizzlies draft, how they build their team. They're always consistent. They're always good. I have to agree with the idea for the Memphis Grizzlies. When do you start getting the star player? When do you start getting the star talent and make yourself better than just a first-round exit, second-round exit? Moving on, the Minnesota Timberwolves, they had the draft pick of Justin Patton, but their biggest win was getting Jimmy Butler. They needed Butler. They needed that superstar now to help with Andrew Wiggins and Karl Anthony Towns and just make the team excel. Patton was a great 7-footer from Creighton and will definitely help right away. For the New Orleans Pelicans, you're looking at Frank Jackson. What happens if Drew Holiday ends? What if he leaves? Ends is a wrong term. If he leaves, what happens? Frank Jackson will step in, be a great, phenomenal pickup. I mean, is he going to be a great shooter? Sure, he's a better version of a Reggie Jackson, as they say, on CBS Sports. I have to agree, but Frank Jackson's a very good talent. He's a lottery level talent, as they say, and I think he'll just excel when given the chance. Moving on to the Oklahoma City Thunder, Terrence Ferguson. He played in Australia, would have played for Arizona, decided against it, make the money now, didn't get a lot of playing time in Australia. I believe it was 15 minutes, but he's 6'7", can shoot the lights out, and that's what Oklahoma City Thunder needed. The only reason why they did not give the Thunder an A is because of the bust potential. He's a dynamic scorer. He can shoot the 3 prolifically, which is what OKC needs. but he could also end up just not being that good in the NBA. He could just fall flat on his face and just not be up to speed. Moving on. The Suns, who had Josh Jackson, Davon Reed, Alec Peters, who I liked from Valpo, Reed from Miami, and Jackson, the great 3-and-D player who turned down working out for the Celtics for who knows what reason. Only he will know. But great pickup. Jackson will fit well with Devin Booker. Davon Reed's a great bench player. He's a 3-and-D player also. And Alec Peters, they don't really give this guy a chance. I think it's because they say he's a small forward. I say he's a power forward, and he will do fine. The only issue is, will his game translate into the NBA? The Trailblazers. I'm looking at this, and the first thing I'm wondering is, what are the Trailblazers doing? Zach Collins is great. Caleb Swanigan, both great players. They just got Jusuf Nurkic, though, last year, who played tremendously for them. Collins is not going to spread the floor. He's a down-low player, just like Nurkic. And Swanigan's a great, as some people would say, trash collector. He gets the rebounds and puts it in. Or he collects the boards like it's his job, and that's the type of player he is. He's a hard-working guy. I think these two pickups could help him greatly, but it just didn't make sense when you need someone else to go with Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum at small forward potentially to shoot. But that's what happens. Moving on, Sacramento Kings. De'Aaron Fox, Justin Jackson, Harry Giles, Frank Mason. Kentucky, North Carolina, Duke, Kansas. Big programs, great kids. Everything the Kings need. They needed leadership. They got Mason, they got Fox. Both great point guards. Justin Jackson, great shooter, one of the best in the game. Harry Giles, former number 1 player in his high school class and potential top 5 before injuries derailed him. This is a great pickup for the Kings. All these players will excel. In 5 years, we may be talking about the Kings making the playoffs and being a legitimate contender. The Spurs are next. Derek White, Jaron, Blossom game. I mean, I'm looking at the Spurs right now. They deserve an A every year, it seems like. Derek White is exactly the type of player they need. He can defend, hit the 3-point shot, and finish at the rim. He's exactly like Danny Green, I will say. Blossom game, who's from Clemson. They said he's a great guy to step in and play right away. He's a forward at 6'7". My only issue is I don't think he's that great of a shooter, if I'm not mistaken. And from the looks of it, yeah, he can score. But he's a 6'7" guy, and that's where Kawhi Leonard is. We'll see how he pans out. And they say he's going to get solid minutes right away. He's 23. I just don't think he will. And I think White will. But we'll see. The Jazz. Donovan Mitchell, Tony Bradley, Nigel William Goss of Gonzaga. Wow. The 2 players the Jazz liked in the draft was Mitchell and Bradley. Mitchell's an athletic freak. Plays much bigger than his 6'3" height, but he has a ridiculous 6'10" wingspan. He gives the Jazz a dynamic bench scoring option, and he's a rangy defender, especially when he hits threes consistently. He shot 35% at Louisville. And I mean, wow. Tony Bradley, just fits the Utah's defensive model of a 6'11" center with a 7'5" wingspan, who is able to rebound, step in, and back up Rudy Gobert. Wow. And to get a solid point guard in William Goss. Another great draft. There's a lot of great drafts in this year. Now we're finally at the Eastern Conference, guys. Atlanta Hawks. John Collins at 19, Tyler Dorsey, 41, and Alpha Kaba at 60. Very easy to say Kaiba. The Hawks come to know that a lot of their guys are leaving. Jeff Teague's gone. Kyle Korver they traded to the Cavs. Al Horford left for the Celtics. Paul Millsap decided, I'm opting out. Let's trade Dwight Howard away too. What's first? John Collins, they got a 6'10" guy. He's their new center. He's a good athlete with nice touch around the rim. You don't expect to get an all-star, but he could be if they keep working at it. Tyler Dorsey, another Oregon player. They call him a gamer on this. He was a great player for Oregon during their run to the Final Four. And I think that's the best way to describe him. He doesn't have any one skill that jumps out, which is why he was around at number 41, and they call him a gamer. He plays because he loves to play the game and will do whatever he can for his team. Looking at the last one, Alpha Kaba. They don't really talk about him on CBS Sports. They do, however. He's a French professional basketball player. They're probably going to stash him. And, I mean, again, that's just typical. But he was the last pick of the draft. More than likely, stashing him away, letting him develop more in France. Boston. Ooh. Didn't talk about him, like I said earlier. I went 1-2, and then Western, and then Eastern Conference. Jason Tatum, great pickup. Semi Ojeleye, Kadeem Allen, and Jabari Bird. What does CBS Sports give this team? A D. Why? They said the grade is more about who Boston didn't get, Jimmy Butler. Okay, I mean, only one team can get Jimmy Butler, and the one team was Timberwolves. Ainge likely would have had to include at least Avery Bradley or Jay Crawford in the deal, of course. But there's also Gordon Hayward still out there. There's also a lot of different people. Jason Tatum was a great pick. The fact that this is a D still shocks me. Tatum can play small forward. He can play power forward. He was a great star for Duke last year. He could hit the three. He can do it all, really. The fact that they were so low on Tatum is kind of shocking to me. Again, it's just surprising. I'm just trying to read through some of this also, and they just keep going about it. But Semi Ojeleye is a great player from SMU. Kadeem Allen, let me look him up a little more. I'll also look up Jabari Bird, who I'm pretty sure was also a solid player. Jabari Bird played, I believe, he was a Cal senior. Another Cal player on that Cal team. Now that I'm saying it over and over again, on that team that did pretty well this year. He was Jabari Bird. He was okay. What more do you want? He was a senior. He's stats, 14 points, 5 assists. No, let me look at assists. 1 assist. Yeah, he didn't really do much else besides points. He had about 5 rebounds, but that's mediocre. Kadeem Allen was an Arizona Wildcat. He's a senior. Again, one of those rare guys who stayed with the program forever. He was great. He wasn't that terrible. He's 6'3" at 200 pounds. It's a little heavy. But, he's an undersized shooting guard, essentially. And that doesn't stop the Celtics. They got Semi Ojeleye at 37, which, talented player. Jason Tatum, very talented player. Kadeem Allen, Jabari Bird, great role players. We'll see what happens. I think a D is too much. I think a B is what they needed, but a D is too much. The Brooklyn Nets. If I had to actually give them a grade, it would be a C because they got rid of their draft pick before. But Jared Allen, Alexander Vezakov. I'm going to butcher it. Sorry. So let's look at this. They got rid of Brook Lopez, their cornerstone, for D'Angelo Russell. Okay, that's good. These two guys, Jared Allen from Texas, great player. He's just raw like most people. And Alexander is just another stowaway player. This team needs to rebuild as much as they can, and they're still in the process. That's all I can say. The Hornets, Malik Monk and Dwayne Bacon at 40. Great players. They also got Zach LaVine. Nope, jumping ahead too fast. These two guys... Monk is a great shooter. Bacon could be a steal at 40 with potential upside. Just very solid players. Not let alone they got Dwight Howard in a trade. Just spectacular for them. Chicago Bulls. They gave him a C. Understandable. They picked up Lauri Markkanen. Yes, you heard that right. Lauri Markkanen. Kid out of France is what I'm seeing. Played for Arizona. There we go. Great talent. I remember watching him a little bit playing last year. The Bulls letting go of Butler, though, is why they give him a C. Again, it seems weird. They did sell their 38th pick to the Warriors, which, as I said earlier, was Jordan Bell out of Oregon. And quite frankly, that was a steal for the Warriors. The Cavaliers did not draft. Shocking. GM LeBron decided against it, I guess, and wants free agents and potentially get rid of Love for Paul George. Yeah. Moving on. Detroit Pistons. Luke Kennard, only pick. He's the 3-and-D guy they needed. That's the best thing I can say. He is the 3-and-D guy they needed. Should have been ACC Player of the Year. Went to Justin Jackson instead. He's a great Franklin, Ohio player. It's fascinating to see this shooter, another great Duke shooter, play in the NBA. The thing I think will be hard for Detroit is seeing what he does down the road. The Indiana Pacers. TJ Leaf, Ike Anigbogo. Wow. And and Edmund Sumner. Leaf was a great player. I've seen a lot of positive, and they say he was better than Lonzo Ball in some games, but in all honesty, he was probably better because Lonzo led him. I'm not quite sure much about the other two, to be honest. And with Paul George potentially leaving, we'll simply just say, let's see what happens with these guys. Bam Adebayo. Wow, just these names. The Miami Heat. 6'10", 7-footer is Bam. He played at Kentucky. And quite frankly, they say he's a disappointing defender. He can't shoot. And quite frankly, I don't think he needs to be. However, he's going to be a backup to Hassan Whiteside. They were probably thinking he was going to be the starting power forward, which I think is unnecessary. I think it's a good depth pick. A C- is a little harsh. I might go B-, but moving on. Milwaukee Bucks. DJ Wilson, Sterling Brown. DJ Wilson did great as he shined for Michigan's unlikely postseason run. He can stretch the floor as a capable shooter and is a smart player taking the right shots. The Sterling Brown pickup is also great. I think both these guys help the depth of the Milwaukee Bucks. The Knicks. The Knicks got Frank Ntilikina. Oh boy, yeah. Ntilikina. Damian Dotson. Ogden Haramis. Let it go. Tried to pull it through and just couldn't do it. Ntilikina is a legit 6'6", plays longer than that. He can guard 1 through 3, and at worst figures to be a versatile 3 and D guy. There's a lot. I mean, to see these names is a little interesting. Dotson being another guy who can shoot, but most of the rest just. I mean, it's just, you can't really see much expanding from it. Moving on to the Magic, who got Jonathan Isaac and Wesley Awundo. Isaac is a great athletic freak from Florida State. He's 6'11", athletic, and is a 4. Him and Eric Gordon, wow, will be spectacular to watch. Isaac can also shoot the ball better than Eric Gordon ever did when he came out. Aaron Gordon was definitely a dunker. And just those two switching will be tremendous. Awundu, don't know much about you, but I'm going to move on. 76ers. We talked about, moving on. Toronto Raptors. OG Anunoby. Guy from Indiana is coming off an ACL tear, but he could be Andre Iguodala for them. Andre Iguodala is a great player, still playing spectacular. If that's the case, that's more people you can throw on LeBron James. Just saying. And finally, the Washington Wizards did not have a free agent or a draft pick. And pretty much they've been trying to recruit him in the news. So, in closing, like I said, this will be a lot about basketball, but I'm going to try to keep it generalized. Again, follow. Going to put stuff on later. YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, and Facebook, Twitter. Please like, subscribe, or like the page, share the page, like and share and subscribe, and the other factors. I look forward to next week. Hopefully it'll be a little more smooth. It's doing this pre-recorded. I feel like I have more freedom to do what I need to do. And once again, I thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.
I and I'll sing, will you make everything